Welcome back to State of My Art Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Liordi. On today's episode, I sit down with my good friend Jara here in Oceanside, California at the Sharp School of Music and Studio. Jara is a San Diego artist. I've known him for probably 6 or 7 years now, and he's an extremely talented dude. He writes all his own music, records it all, produces it all. His new album, Sing Me to Sleep, is available on Spotify or wherever you get your music. He also has a video for Figure Me Out on YouTube. I'll leave the link in the description. All right, let's jump right into it. My conversation with Jara took place here at the Sharp School of Music and Studio in Oceanside, California on March 18th, 2021.
We're really doing it, Jara.
We're doing it.
I have a 30-second timer, just so you know. I didn't warn you. This is going to go off in, not 30-second, 30-minute timer.
Oh, okay.
Because that camera can only record up to 30 minutes.
Interesting.
And then I got to turn it on again.
Ah.
So.
Got it.
We usually do like an hour-ish, but
yeah,
longer, shorter, doesn't matter.
I've been watching your podcast.
Sweet. Thank you.
I really enjoy them, yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, I remember you texted me on one of the first few episodes. Thanks for tuning in for so long.
Yeah, of course. The conversations are always really interesting, I think.
Thanks. We'll try and
try to
make that happen. I don't agree. I mean, sometimes I don't know what to say. I was telling some friends that were asking, so do you like it? Do you like podcasting? And I was like, I actually don't know if I like it. Like, it's kind of like we were talking about before. It's kind of like talking to someone at a show. It's great for the first few minutes, but at some point, I don't know if we're just awkward artists. At a certain point, we're like, I'm not used to small talk. Like, what do we talk about now? I know I have like 10 things I got to go do. Mm-hmm. So, I don't want to not talk to you anymore. I just don't feel the need to.
The good thing though, I think about yours is that it's not live, so you can cut out awkward moments, right?
Yeah, I was going to mention that today too, is eventually here at the Sharp School of Music and Studio, once we get some Wi-Fi in here, we do want to try and set it up so that it is live. Maybe, which then the pressure's on, but
yeah,
I feel like that's a good thing too, because then it's like there's a little more I don't know. I'd probably have a little more of a team too. Like I'd probably get Noah to kind of help run that and the band, to kind of co-host and help me along with it. But yeah, you're right. When it's just me, I can sort of just wing it and then edit together a cohesive show.
Right. Yeah. And you can practice until then. You know? That's true.
Episode 28 is what this is.
Oh, okay.
So I should have it by now. I think I can pull it off live.
Yeah.
If I were live right now, I would just be like, well, whatever, it's live, Fuck it, we'll do it live.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you might have to be the main speaker on this, because this makes me so nervous. I get so nervous in this.
You'll ease up after 45 minutes or so. Sometimes it takes me to finally come out of the shell.
But I'll tell you this. One time I did a radio interview, like a live radio interview on 91X, and it was with Tim Piles.
Yeah.
And I was so nervous. I was promoting a show that I had at Soma, okay? And I was so nervous, he asked me what the bands were that were playing at the show besides mine. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know. Yeah. I was unprepared for that question. So I made up like 5 band names off the top of my head. Yeah. And then later on he looked online and was like, okay, so it's this band, this band, this band, this band. And I just pretended like
so he found the show that you were playing.
And then he said the names, but I don't think he noticed or anybody noticed. So
that's amazing. That's a total thing that happened. That reminds me of this video game I keep talking on the podcast about that I want to make. That's like being a DIY artist and working your way up.
A video game?
Yeah, so there's like a Guitar Hero aspect to it, but that's like 2% of it. Mm-hmm. 2% of it you're performing for maybe a 3-minute show. And then the rest of it, you're driving to the venue, loading your gear, going on a radio interview.
That's
And
cool.
you have to remember all the bands on the bill when they ask. Or there's all these side missions, kind of like Tony Hawk Pro Skater and Grand Theft Auto. But it's
That's
all...
a good idea.
It's...
You and someone else are making this?
It's not even started. I don't know how to begin. It's one of my many ideas that I'll just procrastinate on until I find a key to starting.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that's cool. I would leave out the pre-sale ticket part because I think people, just like in life, they're just like, fuck this, I ain't doing this.
But that would be, you got to pay to play.
Yeah.
And you realize that that's not the way after a couple times.
Yeah, and that's how you beat that level is you go, fuck this.
Yeah.
And they go, you won.
But at a certain point, you do have to beat that level. Because if you don't beat that level, you never really appreciated or realized what the grind was.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the name of the game is right now, the grind. It was originally called the artist game, but my friend who develops games relatively well, he's more of a like PC. He's kind of designing this, it looks like, what's that blocky game? The... Minecraft?
Yeah, Minecraft. I don't play video games at all.
Me neither. That's part of the problem is I don't know who to even contact. But it's just an ongoing joke that people can comment on. Like, oh, and you can, you have to sound check and deal with the sound guy. And if you upset the sound guy, the show's canceled. All of the realities that we face as musicians are just kind of smushed into this game.
And you have different levels of sound guys. So first one is like guy with really long hair, probably in a ponytail. He's probably in a metal band, and he's very angry.
Yeah, he's bitter that his band left him or whatever.
Yes. Yeah.
Or grew up and like he was like, we were about to get signed and
Yep.
Has that story that he's willing to tell if you impress him.
Yes. Wow.
But
nice.
if he doesn't like your music, you're getting 2 words out of him through the whole night. And
have you ever paid a sound guy before? Like, here's $20, make it sound good.
Oh, no, only if they're like, hey, I record the sets if you want to pay $20 for it. I'm
like
pretty much always said yes, because I find that especially if it's multi-tracked, that's really valuable.
Yeah.
Even just to analyze after.
Yeah. At what is that? I play there all the time. Well, I did play there all the time. Well, the Stats, they do that.
Oh yeah. I know that guy records the set.
Yeah, that's cool. Did have you had a lot of shows where they record?
No, probably only a total of 20.
That's a good amount.
Well, of like almost 200 a year. But
it's like 200 shows a year.
When I was touring steady, yeah, if you think about it, I only had like 2 to 3 months off.
Wow.
And 5 to 7 shows a week when it was on.
Me and Michael Shannon, who was on here, we always wondered how you did that. Like, not only just because I know you do everything yourself, right?
Yeah.
For the most part.
That's kind of how I was able to do it.
Yeah, well, I would go insane doing that. Not even not the work part of it, but the driving by myself for, 9 months.
Here's the thing is after doing Warped Tour, I was like, this is a breeze. This is like, sometimes the drives were as short as half an hour. Sometimes they would be a Warped Tour drive, 5 to 8 hours. But it's not like I'm working the whole day and then driving all night like I was at Warped Tour. So I think Warped Tour kind of made it. After that, I was like, wow, now I'm getting paid from the shows to put in the gas tank. Yeah, maybe not playing to as many people as when I was playing like the Warped Tour parking lots and forcing 1,000 kids to watch. But those kids are there for the local bands and me sometimes. So it was more worth it to set up all that stuff, do those drives, and I was sleeping 8 to 10 hours better than ever, better than at home.
In the van?
In the trailer, in the van, and sometimes at people's houses, sometimes at girls' houses. I loved it.
Yeah, I bet.
It was the life. I hated being home.
Yeah. When did you play Warped Tour? I didn't know that you did that.
Well, I basically guerrillaed the parking lot. I would either just walk around with my acoustic, or I would set up with a generator, and I had a band for some of that.
Wow.
And then eventually 2012, I got invited to like finagle my way onto stages, whether it was like an acoustic basement or a Digitech pedal demoing stage that some of the bigger bands would also do like a acoustic appearance at. There was all these little tents and opportunities.
That's cool.
For bigger bands to have the opportunity to do signings and play acoustic sets, and they would have openings. So eventually the Warped Tour production was like, we see you out here hustling. If you do some side work for us as well, is kind of their thing. Is like, if you kind of work your way into being in the family, then you can play.
That's cool.
You could ask to play these stages, and maybe we'll get you on a hometown show. And I ended up playing Ernie Ball stage a bunch that year. And then 2013 it was the same deal. I had a band with me, and we were a little more elaborate with our setup, and that kind of got us in trouble sometimes. But we were also helping out.
Meaning you would set up like a
drum riser, light show. I mean, I had the light show the year before, but not nearly as much. I had a truss now, because I was like, man, I was doing so well 2012 Warped Tour, and people were respecting my hustle. I'm going to hustle harder. So I had more gear. And then sometimes we would just like take too much room in the parking lot, and they had this new insurance policy. I think that might have been 2014, where they couldn't.
You did it 3 years?
I pretty much did it all of 2010, maybe 5 or 6 dates of 2011, because I was like hired gun session musicians that year. And then 2012 is the first year I was like, screw it, I'm just going to do like an all backing track one-man show, and I'll take this all around Warped Tour so that I could sell my new album, which just came out and I have no band for. So I think that was another reason. They were like, we like this album that this guy made all on his own, and and now's our time to give this guy a chance who keeps coming back.
Yeah.
I think it was a little bit of that, and they started like really helping out the parking lot leeches, as we were called.
Parking lot leeches.
And some of the drives that year were so insane, because the bands were huge. Like All Time Low was on that year.
Yeah.
There were so many big bands, throwback bands, especially 2012, that I think they were like, you really fit this bill with your nostalgic throwback sound and album that you just put out. And on one of the drives that I didn't do, for some reason, it was like Chicago to Detroit back to Wisconsin or something like that, or back to Minneapolis. And I was like, it's not worth it to drive 5 hours out of the way to Detroit just to drive 5 hours plus 3 hours back. But on that drive, a couple kids that were just selling in the parking lot with headphones got in a really bad wreck and died. I think one of them died.
Oh, man.
So they thought maybe that was me, or they thought like, oh, it could have been any of the leeches. But they called me in that morning, and they were like, we want to get the inventory of all the bands, how many they're riding with, what van they're in for everyone in the parking lot. And they'd see me talking to all the bands every morning because of my setup and like kind of hard to miss guy. So that was kind of my first job for them. And they were like, wow, you did all that in one day? All the bands?
Yeah.
Let's get you a pass and let's try and get you on some stages. So that's a long story short, but
wow, that's awesome. Do you feel like Like, as if all the DIY stuff was worth it?
At a certain point, I started figuring it out. This is how all my guests do it. They interview me. You're the one with the new album out. We got to get to that.
We'll get to that. Yeah.
I just mean, like, I made so many mistakes along the way, as every band does, that eventually I started realizing, like, okay, I should get all local bands on my show because I'm nowhere near a headlining act.
Mm-hmm.
And doing it that way, and trying to find ways to get on touring national acts shows as a local after doing it so many times.
Yeah, you did Europe with I Set My Friends on Fire, right?
Yeah, and that was another thing where, as much as it was, I mean, I'm still learning and making mistakes.
Sure.
But the amount of networking that I've gained from that, which is another big reason I was like, screw it, I'm going to start a podcast. I mean, I met you probably the first time I came down to San Diego. I'm pretty sure that was my first San Diego show at that burger place.
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah, I played to 2 people that night.
And Little Heroin was on that show.
Yeah.
Michael Shannon.
Yeah.
So it's like, time goes by fast. That was probably 2014.
Yeah, it's scaring the shit out of me lately. Especially, you go on Facebook. Facebook loves to do this, where they go, here's a memory from 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And I look at it and I'm like, oh my God, that was 7 years ago.
Yeah. I'm doing the exact same thing now, but better, but to less people maybe. Sometimes.
Sure, yeah. It's like, I'd rather not know that. Just like, leave me alone, man.
Sometimes it's nice. Sometimes it's nostalgic. Yeah. I remember getting the one from 2012 that it's me playing this, like, literally a double axe metal bass.
Yeah.
From this venue in Long Island with red pants on.
Hell yeah.
And I remember thinking that was the night before I checked into the hospital for a burst appendix. My appendix was burst in that photo. And I'm white as a ghost because I was in pain, and I played like 6 shows like that.
Did you know? I
didn't even know what an appendicitis, or I didn't even know what an appendix was.
I still don't.
It's just this little thing on the side, right side of your intestine, basically against your intestine or something. You don't need it. In fact, a lot of people who go like backpacking through the desert or whatever, or through the jungle, rainforest, will have it taken out if they're going to be gone for more than a month, knowing that they can't find a hospital. And it can burst at any time. For no reason.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So mine was like, I had a bad stomach ache at the beginning of December 2012 in the Midwest. And I finished that tour, came home for 2 days after that tour. I got a speeding ticket on the way home. I remember that too. And
nice.
Then the next day I was like, I had a really bad stomach the last few days, couldn't sleep, but now I'm fine. I was telling my mom, she's like, well, you should get it checked out. Like, if you were not sleeping from a stomach ache for more than one night, something's got to be wrong. I was like, I'm not going to go get checked out if I feel fine, though. I feel like last night I slept great. And then I started a tour on the East Coast with this band that I'd trained a month earlier.
You trained them?
Yeah, like I taught them all the parts and.
Oh, okay, with your own band. Got it.
For my music, yeah. Mm-hmm. And they came up, played that show. I remember getting that picture, and that night I was just like in agony again because it had burst and I was infected. So it burst, so I felt fine, and then all the toxins made me infected, and then I checked into the hospital and I was there for 8 days and canceled that tour. I was basically off for 2 months.
That's gnarly, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get really nervous about things like that. I always think
like health issues.
Yeah. with a lot of things, honestly. Yeah, I always think if I get a spider bite, people get annoyed because I'm constantly asking, like, "Are you sure? Like, what if it was this spider? What if this? What if it gets infected? What if this?" But I've always been fine. Is there wood I can knock on?
Those speakers probably have wood inside of them somewhere.
Okay.
Wow, come to think of it, that couch probably has some wood. Man, all the guitars are over here.
It's cool. I'll be okay, I think. We'll see. I'll report back if anything happens.
You're all good right now. You got no issues right now?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think I'm pretty cool.
I'm the opposite. I push things off. If I think I have something, I'm like, last time I thought I had something, it was nothing. So it's probably nothing.
It's probably a better way to live, maybe, huh?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I fear is people not showing up to the show. That's honestly, at this point,
we've had to face that fear so many times. It's there, especially when you're starting. There's this tug and pull of, I don't know if you experience this, but I always felt this way. It's like I want people to come, but I want people to come to ones that people come to. So smaller shows, I felt not anymore, but when I was starting, I felt like more almost embarrassed if I invited someone and nobody was there.
Yeah.
So it was like, I'm only going to invite people to shows. Well, I'm only going to really try to invite people to shows where I know people are already going to be there.
It's already going to be a full room. So the energy, their perception of you is going to be so much better.
Right, yeah. Because
playing to that full room.
Yeah, it can be kind of embarrassing when, there's nobody there and someone, especially if someone is like a big fan of you and they kind of come. It just feels like, oh, I'm sorry to let you down,
Yeah, and as much as they may feel like, no, like I still loved it. It was still awesome. Mm-hmm. Subconsciously, there is a little bit, for most people, there's still a little bit of doubt leaving that show about your ability.
Sure, yeah.
Which is such a shame because they should feel like what a small percentage of super fans might feel like. I just got an intimate show. He just played one-on-one for me. People would pay thousands of dollars for this.
That's kind of how I play it now. If I play a show and there's not that many people, I try to make it as a performer more intimate and kind of almost feel like it's an exclusive thing.
Sure.
Mainly, maybe it's for myself to feel better. I don't know. But I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. I never know what to do, whether it's... So I kind of play it two angles. Either the intimate show of like, you guys are lucky. Like you're the only people here in Texas who even know that this is going down.
Yeah.
Or I play it's so nice to play to 30,000 people tonight. Thank you all for coming out.
Right, yeah.
And they get a kick out of that too, knowing that they've seen maybe a video on my Instagram where I did play to 100 or so people, which is still like, you kind of have to get it. It's a small niche when we're at this size.
Yeah.
Where you have to get it. Like, this person's good, even though they only have 100 fans in this city.
Right, yeah. It's very hit or miss at this stage, I think, playing shows. I have a friend, and I'm not going to say her name, but she does really well on Spotify. Really well, like millions. And she does, national tours, and sometimes they turn out, and sometimes they... sometimes they have to cancel shows because people don't come, which is, I'm not throwing any shade on her at all.
No, I get it.
Yeah. But, she was saying that she feels the same way as like, I have all these streams and I have a lot of followers and, online, but it's like, it feels like you let them down when they come and they're like, when you get that reaction of them going like, oh, like, oh, I thought you were this, you know, like you're saying, there's like a subconscious. I think that's a human. It's just like a human thing.
I'm sure there's a word for it. I don't know it. I say perception, but it's probably like it's almost like it's a little bit of I see other people want it, so I want it too.
Right. Yeah.
Like the toilet paper during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Once everybody goes after it, and now it's interesting that we have this live versus online difference too, because sometimes I feel like, oh man, I don't want to be that band that has a great online presence and a great online following, but doesn't have a show to back it or an audience that will come out to the show.
Mm-hmm.
Not only to back it, but you know, I'm sure a lot of agents are aware that there's a lot of artists who have a lot of streams, have a lot of views, but don't have a big pull live. Mm-hmm. And it's not fun doing the online stuff. I don't like doing it.
I don't really like it either, to be honest. I mean, there's sometimes to be honest, I'm pretty self-conscious of my, not my personality, but you know, how I'm perceived. And so it makes it, difficult because I have a pretty strong vision of what I want my brand and the entire vision of the project to be.
I see that, yeah.
And I'm really inspired by people like David Bowie or even The Weeknd, where they themselves are the art.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It's like with a lot of people like that, they don't show their personality very much to keep the mystique and to keep the potency of the vision. And so, yeah, it gets kind of, should I do this? Should I not do this? But also there's, you know, the entire world saying that you need to post every day and you need to show your personality. People want to feel like you're just like them.
People want to know every part of you.
Yeah, and I don't want anybody knowing every part of me, you know.
And it's hard to agree that it's to the benefit of your direct demographic.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because I think sometimes your direct demographic in music, for some reason, especially or maybe only music, they may get turned off by some things that they don't even realize they're turned off by.
Yeah. And
I've seen it with some of my favorite artists. They're really careful about what they post, and it works for them. Mm-hmm. If you watch with the main posts, it's like they do show their personal lives, but they show only the personal life that's their demographic that's on brand. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that there's a whole bunch of baggage in their personal life or anything like that, but I think they do a really good job. If anything, I'm complimenting their ability to be transparent, but also stay on brand.
Right, yeah.
Which is really, really tough to do. And there's a lot of local bands that will try to just show everything and every meal they're eating.
Yeah.
And I know that is going a little in the wrong direction. Like, we're also told that we shouldn't be showing every meal we're eating, for example. But it's like, at the end of the day, it's just a whole crap load of content that you have to stay on top of and be, what's the word? Intentional about.
Yeah. That's what I'm
which is
going
to which is only going to take you away from creating more music.
Yeah, totally.
But at the same time, you can use your music to play off of it,
mm-hmm.
which you do a really good job at.
What kind of camera is that?
That's the A7 III.
The Sony?
Sony.
Yeah.
Which all the Sonys have an app that you can get that bypasses that 30-minute limit. Like, this has a 30-minute limit, but mm-hmm. I got an app for it. But I don't think there's an app you can download to that camera, which is annoying.
That sucks.
But yeah, it always happens right in the middle of like the key conversation, the thing that people really need to hear.
I think it's because it takes time for conversation to get there, especially for a podcast.
Takes exactly 29 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, but what you're saying, I totally agree with. It's like there's just a tug and pull between where you put your energy and spend your time, which, yeah, it gets really tricky. And like I said, I love the artists that, like The Weeknd, for an example. He's a modern example where and I'm sure he's nothing like the character of his music if you actually got to know him, but the perception is that he is, because that's kind of all you see. And I think some people will take that and think, no, just be yourself. But it's like, to me, music, the entire, or just for my project anyway, the character of, the main character in the songs, I want to embody what the songs and the entire vision is. Kind of like a movie,
right? Like a character in a movie.
Yeah, and that's what's inspired me the most is when you see somebody live, and they just match the music, and it's an entire vision. It's not, I've seen some artists that I've seen, and don't get me wrong, there's different ways of doing it, and artists that I love that don't do that at all. But sometimes I see artists where you go see them live and the perception is, hi, I'm this person, here's my music, here's my brand, here's the visuals, here's this, versus the I am the music, I am the brand. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it gets tricky when you don't have the leverage to do that all the time. You don't have the time to work on that perception. And again, I want to make sure I'm not coming across as saying it's like, don't be yourself or something like that.
Or that's the only way.
Right. Yeah.
You're just a fan of that perception and that brand. That sort of marketing and branding. Yeah.
Just that style of a musical artist, really.
It comes with the term star power. That's what it kind of is like you have this personality and kind of mysterious character that is going along with the music, that it's kind of mandatory to keep that image and that's what the star power is. But then a lot of people will also say that star power is just being yourself and not caring at all what anybody thinks, which is, they can go hand in hand. It can be, I mean, look at Marilyn Manson. He's
right. He's
a perfect example of this is the character behind the music you're hearing. And that's what I'm going to portray at all times.
Right, yeah.
But I'm also going to go back to myself and keep that, away from you guys. There was some MTV bits where they did go into his personal life and have him on the phone with his mom, and you were like, this is Marilyn Manson?
Yeah.
But it's kind of cooler to establish that brand and character first. Totally. And then as people are totally obsessed, once you hit your demographic on the head and they're obsessed, then when they see your personal side, they're going to be even more like, oh my God, and he's just a normal person. How is he able to pull off that God and be a normal person at the same time? And
it becomes more valuable too when you see who they really are, or whatever you want to say. It's like just supply and demand, man.
Yeah.
You know, it's like if you perceive them that way, and then for so long, and it's so, would be the word, just very convincing.
Yeah.
But then you see themselves who they are. It's just what you're saying is like it's more valuable, and people are like more like whoa, you know. Also, people like Frank Ocean, or even The Weeknd again. It's like when you get an interview from them, it's the biggest deal in the world because you never get it, you know. And that's something. I don't know how you feel, but for example, when I play live, I feel like as soon as the guy waves the flashlight and the lights go off and you're about to start, like a switch goes off, and you kind of embody this stage presence.
Right.
Whereas some people are the opposite, where they're the same on stage as they are off stage. And that's just kind of what inspires me more. It's like I always call David Bowie the cracked actor, which I just think that's the coolest thing, personally.
Yeah, I see that with you. Is you always, if you're going to be representing Jara, you are always going to be on brand with your image and and that's really admirable. I mean, I feel like I'm 1,000 different people across 500 different cities, and each time I go back, I might be a totally different character than the last time I was there. For better or for worse.
Sure.
Probably for worse. But there's sometimes where...
you're a likable guy.
Well, I don't mean that I'm not likable, but the mystique of what is this guy about, or this guy is the DIY legend, is what a lot of my peers and guys in bands think as I'm, talking about this kind of stuff, for instance, and how I got started, and the Warped Tour grind is kind of what I've become known for. But then they might talk to me one night and I'll just be, joking about whatever. Like, I'll just be having a good time. I might not be talking about the grind at all.
Mm-hmm.
And they're loving it. They're having a good time, and they're thinking like, oh, I didn't even know he was like this. Last time he was here, he was telling us all about what you have to do to, get your voice prepared or whatever. I don't know. So I've been writing about that a lot lately too. Is like, I feel like I'm 1,000 different people to 100,000 different people, and I kind of have a consistent personality with all these different people. Obviously, you're a different person to your parents than you are
Absolutely.
to a fan at a show. But I find like even that is always sort of changing, and maybe everybody feels that way about themselves to a certain degree. But when it comes to being a brand and even like honing in on your sound, which I think you really nailed on this new album, is like,
thanks.
This is all this stuff boils back to the first thing I said on this podcast is I'm always improving, I'm always making mistakes, I'm always going to get better, and that is going to carry over through online presence, through branding, through finding your sound. It's all going to get better the more you do it, through talking to people at shows, socializing, like all that's going to get better. And I feel like maybe I am finding a sound that I want to go with a little more consistently. I've often been called a little bit of an identity crisis, and I would say not only musically, but who I am as a person too. I'm like totally willing to talk someone's ear off one day and then not sure what to say next another day.
Well, that kind of could be an identity in itself, Sure. Yeah. Do you feel like you have, or do you have a musical identity, or do you feel like it's something that you are not persistent but intentional about musically, or do you kind of just write whatever?
I feel like my formula for writing a song, not like the structure of a song, but like how I'm going to build this song that I'm currently working on is always changing. I never go back to, well, it worked that one time if I did that. I'm always like, no, I don't want it to sound like another song I wrote. So I'm going to write this song on the drum. I'm just going to play a drum, 3 minutes of drums that I would want a song to sound like. And then I'll build off of that. And then, okay, I've done that. Now I'm going to write just a piano song knowing that I want this driving guitar or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I think because of that sort of ADD approach to writing, or just wanting like a fresh a palette every time,
Mm-hmm.
kind of creates a little bit of that identity crisis. But I also think that is subjective, because I'll show my parents my new album once it's finally all mastered, and they'll be like, it all sounds the same. And I'm like, are you kidding? The labels are telling me I have an identity crisis. What do you mean?
I think your music sounds cohesive.
Yeah, thanks. I think it is starting to more,
Mm-hmm.
but like I used to have a random like dance song mixed in there, and then like a hardcore song with the only thing that was making it cohesive was my voice tying it all together, which I like. Like I'm a fan of bands that do that. I think Angels and Airwaves does a good job at that. Coldplay does a good job at that. Every song, I mean, Angels and Airwaves might have a lot of the same chord structures and melodies recycled,
Mm-hmm.
but their production is always evolving and going to places where it's like, whoa, I didn't expect them to be using these patches.
Sure.
Whereas I never want to be stuck in
like pigeonholed.
the band that I was when I was 16, where it was like, okay, we're going to have a rhythm guitar part, a lead guitar part, a bass playing the same as the rhythm guitar, and then a drum beat following the rhythm and the band.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be the album front to back, and we have to make a way to make that unique. I mean, I didn't even think that far back then, but it was like, you know, I thought that it was literally 4 tracks and then a vocal.
Right, yeah.
Um,
That's how we used to write back
Right.
then. Is like live, like in a room.
Exactly.
Writing. That's crazy to me. Now, I mean, I think working with other people is good in its own way. But me personally, I feel like I write, specifically for my songs, I write better alone, I think, because I can just kind of zone out and just dive in.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? And whereas before, when I was younger, it was always like that. It was like you're writing in a room with people, and collaboration is really important. Don't get me wrong, but now having, you know, I use Logic. I produce all my own stuff, so you get in that zone, and trying not to break it is key, I think. In writing good music and just kind of letting it come to you rather than, you know, because I write for other artists sometimes, and you know I do just like writing rooms where that style of writing is like, you know, sometimes we'll sit in a room, we have the chord progression and we have the song, and you know we'll get to the second verse, and you know we'll be trying to, you know, find one word to finish the line. We'll be sitting there for, you know, 3 hours trying to find one word. Whereas like when I think it just sounds more natural when you just kind of let it come to you. Do you know what I mean? It's like, and being in that zone is like you're not thinking about it too much. You're just, it's almost like being in like a lucid dream where you have to have the awareness enough to know that you can do whatever you want in your dream, but you can't have too much awareness to where you wake up from the dream. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's almost like you're daydreaming when you're writing by yourself and kind of just letting words come to you. Sometimes I'll let things come to me and I'm like, I like the way this sounds. Does it make sense to the song? Well, what's the song even about? Well, I don't know. Well, now I think I know what it's about. And yeah, that can make sense because of the imagery that I'm thinking about that one time to do with this song topic that I've now established. So yeah, let's go with it. Mm-hmm. And if anyone has any questions, I can explain that, no problem.
Yeah.
Or sometimes I'll even 2 months later be like, oh, that's probably what I was thinking about when I thought of that line. Like, sure, it was the image from that time with that one person. So yeah, that's what I do like about being I'm just gonna sit here in a room and write by myself, as daunting as that is sometimes to even plan to do, which as we get busier with other things, inevitably you have to set aside time where you're going to write. And as much as you want to go do other things, it's no, do this thing. You'll be glad you did. Yeah, but lately I've been writing with a lot of other people now for their projects and their bands or the band that I'm playing in. And it's also nice because everybody's trying to find that word. And so you feel like there might be some gold, and together we're all digging, so we're going to find it, and it's going to be great, and we're going to get there quicker. So sometimes it does. So I like both. And I saw you wrote with, did Hate Drugs help write that song that I posted today?
Yeah, you did.
That was my favorite on the album, I think. I've only heard it 3 times now, the album, but that one I didn't know until I posted it today and saw featuring Hate Drugs.
Yeah.
And I love those guys.
Yeah, they're cool. I love those guys. They're so nice. They're awesome.
I was
awesome
like,
dudes.
oh, dang, yeah, that makes sense. This has their vibe.
Yeah.
What's that song called again?
Can't Shake the Feeling.
Can't Shake the Feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Good tune.
Thanks, man. Yeah, we'd been talking about doing a collaboration for a while. And I kind of had the bare bones of it and sent it to them. And yeah, we just went from there.
So it was Postal Service style. You guys were sending stuff back and forth.
Basically, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I'm trying to, one of my goals as, I'm a pop artist, but I would consider myself in the alternative scene, whatever you want to call it. And I think there's a really awesome communicative aspect in hip-hop music that I want to bring to rock and roll music, or whatever you want to call it, alternative music.
Right.
I call it rock and roll, but people call it whatever they want. So that's kind of been one of my goals, is to collaborate with more artists. And I was just thinking, how much cooler it would be if alternative music had that communicative, collaborative aspect. Whereas in hip hop, everybody's, featuring on each other's songs. Someone does a remix of the song. They do albums together. Yeah. I think that would just be awesome in alternative music to bring that. And I think if alternative music had that, I think it would have a bigger place in the culture than it does right now.
Yeah, I think it's starting to, especially with how streaming has adapted to that community.
Yeah.
And you're starting to see it with a lot of bands. The band Camino and All Time Low did a really great one. Yeah, dude, let's collab. Let's do a song together.
I'm super down, man. I'm super down.
We've known each other for 7 years now.
Oh my God. 7 years. Jesus.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I just think it would be so cool. I would be so excited if, I don't know, Tame Impala and The Neighborhood decided to do an album together. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And yeah, I just think it's the future.
I'm glad that you did a full album. There's not many bands just dropping a full album out of nowhere like you.
I was kind of nervous to do it. I was kind of reluctant, just because there's so much effort that goes into promoting songs. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of why I was doing singles for a while, which was cool to kind of like wrap it all up and put it in a record, after.
So some of those songs on that album were singles that were already out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just the idea at this point where I'm at right now, at this point, I would rather release 3 songs and really promote them,
sure,
and get them heard, than release a full album.
Oh, okay.
And, having to spread my attention,
Yeah.
So, but it worked perfectly with this record because, I had released, a few of them as singles, and I got to really promote them, and then releasing it as a full album, like a full movie, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to, now I can promote the other songs properly. 'Cause I would rather have a song be heard than 5 songs not be heard. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel the same way. It's kind of backwards from what I would think. Because as a consumer, I like when a band drops a full album and I can just
get lost in it.
Yeah, do the work to. I mean, it used to be so much more work to go out and buy an album and play it, or get the album and listen to it. But now it's so much easier. But what's backwards about it is I'm more reluctant to go do the work to find the band and hit play on the song, as crazy as that seems. It takes 2 seconds if it's just a single.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, whereas if it's a full album, like when I saw yours was a full album, I was like, okay, I'm going to listen to this thing front to back right now.
Sweet.
Especially because like most of the time, if I'm going to go out of my way to search something, like a podcast, I'm investing the next at least half hour in giving it a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if it's just like a 3-minute song,
yeah,
for some reason, I'm like, it's not enough for me to dive all the way in right now or pull it up.
Yeah.
Which seems silly, but I get why people also, as a artist, as a producer, I would be more reluctant to release an album now because I know that there's probably 6 or 7 songs on my last album that my listeners, my fans, some of my best fans probably haven't even given a full chance. Maybe they've heard it once or twice, but they didn't even give it a full chance because that's a lot of time to invest into.
Right. Yeah.
And maybe these podcasts too. I probably get more views on the snippets than I do on the full thing.
Yeah. I watched the full thing when I watched. Just saying.
For podcasts, I believe most people do.
Yeah.
Which is funny because these are so underproduced compared to my albums. There's so much less effort and there's so much less emotion being poured out. But
I think
they're relatable.
Yeah. Well, I think people, this is just my theory, I think people right now, although we have social media and we're very connected, quote unquote, honestly, I think people are lonely. And I think podcasts kind of make it feel like you're hanging out with people.
Totally.
And I know, when I've had my less great times, I'll just say. Sure. I gravitate towards podcasts, I think, for that reason. To feel like you're in a conversation.
Just having a casual conversation with someone you admire, maybe.
Yeah.
What a great feeling.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, I can see why. It's weird how, everybody, I don't know if right at this moment, but for the last 5 years or so, maybe longer, in music, everybody's, said that it's a singles driven industry, and, but it's odd to me how, like you're saying, people will say it's easier to get someone to listen to, a single than a full album, like we were just talking about. Yet, people are also diving into full, what would you call them? Just like, Netflix series.
Oh, binge watching. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I said that on another episode, I think, where, yeah, like people have the attention span of, I don't know, a Buddhist when it comes to watching Netflix, but a goldfish when it comes to listening to music, right?
Yeah, it seems like and I'm guilty of it too. But I've been listening to records a lot lately, like vinyl, which is such a different experience. It kind of almost sits me back down to the Buddhist attention span.
And you get that intermission halfway through.
Yeah, and you play there. It's a task to do.
Yeah,
it feels like
yeah.
an enjoyable one, but yeah, it's just odd. So that's kind of why I was reluctant, just based on everything we were just talking about. But I'm really proud of it, and I'm really happy with it. I think it came out pretty cohesive, and I think
Definitely.
I put a lot of effort into making it run smoothly and be, have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and yeah, hopefully, the opening track. I was also reluctant to put the first track is just
Sing Me
kind
to
of
Sleep?
Yeah, it's called "Sing Me to Sleep," and it's just kind of like an intro. But in the end, I just decided to do it because the goal was to have an opening track that's kind of like "Welcome to my world."
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I
you're
love when
listening
albums
to it.
have that, yeah.
Yeah, I like them too.
And that's a good one. I mean, when I saw it was 45 seconds long or whatever, I was like, okay, it's an intro. Like, I'm not going to hit next because this is important.
Dude, it drives me crazy that Netflix you can skip the opening intro. Do you know what I'm talking about?
That's because when they're binge watching, you don't want to watch the same intro 15 times.
I get it, but I'm just like, dude, can't people wait like 15 seconds? And it's the tagline. Like, for example, The Office. I never skip the intro. I want to hear that.
Tune.
Yeah. It's just, it makes it better for me for some reason. It's just like, doo-doo-doo, doo-doo-doo-doo-doo.
Yeah, it's a little warm up to get you stoked on their world.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like sets you up for the next episode and gives me that feeling like, all right, yeah. But yeah. So with the record, when I was asking you about cohesiveness, if you're intentional about it, one of the things I've found in coming up with a sound and being faithful to it without compromising your creativity is I've kind of found a lot of sounds that I like. Patches, guitar tones, drum sounds. And so I have a bank of just different things, a lot of different things, And I find that having specific sounds to work with, not a limiting amount, but a good,
at least
good library,
a good wide boundary.
Exactly.
Of good.
Yes.
Of things you like.
Right. Yeah.
There's no super dancey trance synth that you wouldn't want to use. There's only the stuff that you're like, I would want to see my brand sound like these patches.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, if it's not, everything is for the song at the end of the day. It's all about the song. If the song calls for something that sounds a little out of the realm of what my music sounds like, I'm going to use it anyways. But having that... Having a bank in those kind of guidelines really, for me, actually expands my creativity because I can do any style of music that I want.
Right.
I can make something that sounds kind of hip hop. I can make something that's just straight up indie. I can make just a outright pop record or a country song. But if I'm using the sounds that are in my bank, it still all sounds cohesive. And it's kind of like painting different paintings just with using the same colors. You know what I mean? And I found that it's kind of freed me to be more creative because you can go anywhere with it and it'll still sound cohesive and not like, I mean, a lot of bands do that thing. I think you're saying like Angels and Airwaves. I think that's what you meant, is like some bands you hear a song and you go, oh, who's that? They go, whoever, you know.
Until you hear the voice, you might not know. Yeah.
Yeah, and then another song plays, and then you go, oh, who's this? And they go, the same band, and you go, oh, that's the same band, you know.
Right.
A lot of people like that, and I like it too, but like I said, I just kind of prefer having like a cohesive sound.
Yeah,
So
and
I found that.
I mean, I don't think not. I definitely don't think all your songs sound the same. But there's definitely, you know, some patches where it's like, oh, cool, he's using that '80s pad again. Cool.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. So that's good advice for people making songs. Is like, that's a good way to do it.
For you guys, just kidding.
I was gonna say you're a great guest. You touched on all the things that I was hoping to ask you about. What DAW you use, how you write, how you made this album, some like tips and tricks, without me even having to remember anything.
I hope I don't sound self-righteous answering the questions without being asked them.
No. If anything, that's me. I'm talking people's ear off. I'm used to being in the interviewee seat. Not enough, not much, but that's what's nice about podcasts. It's not really an interview. It's more of a conversation between two artists in this case, which, yeah, man, I'm proud of you. I didn't even know this album was coming out, and I was just like,
Yeah.
damn, this is good.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's been a while coming. I've released... There's a thing with Spotify that kind of gets on my nerves, which is you can't control what comes up first on the page.
Oh, yeah, I've seen bands do it. I don't know how to do it.
Really? I didn't know that.
I don't know if it's the first thing that comes up. Yeah, like I think there's a way that you can, there's artist preferred song selection. So anytime like the band comes out with a new song, that's the number one thing, even if it's not the most plays.
Really?
So yeah, you should look into how to do that. Spotify for artists should have something up there on how to do that.
Oh, I had no idea. Yeah, because it's been kind of annoying that I don't mind the most listened to at the top, but when you scroll down to look at the discography, it shows the albums before EPs rather than, I think it should be just chronological. But yeah, so I have like EPs that were just longer, that had 7 songs instead of 6 from a long time ago that are above the EPs that I have, most recent ones. I'm about to take one of them down. I keep saying I'm going to take it down, but I haven't taken it down yet.
Why, you're just kind of over it?
I just feel like it doesn't represent the vision at all. And yeah, I talked to someone who's in the music industry a while back, and they kind of said, I was asking them, like, should I take this down? Does it I feel like it doesn't represent me anymore. Which right now is the most vital place, I think, to really, what do you call it? Just like have a concentrate of your best stuff.
Is like Spotify and streaming platforms?
Yeah, I think so.
Especially when you can't go play a show.
Yeah. And yeah, but he asked me, I said, should I take it down? And he asked me, well, if someone went on your Spotify and those were the first songs they listened to, would that bother you? Are you proud of them? And not that I'm not proud of them. That's where I was at that time. But I kind of the idea of that kind of made me feel a little uneasy.
Sure.
And maybe I'll put it back up again someday, but I just feel like for right now, I just want to have a concrete, clear vision of what I'm doing.
That's fair.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's almost counterproductive, even if they do like that old song more, because now they might be like, hey, we like that old song a lot. And you're thinking, oh, geez, well, then what do you think of the new stuff? Because it's way different.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, this stuff's cool, but I like this old song. Especially if, like, I don't know, sometimes you'll just get the nostalgic fans who they don't even know that they might like the new stuff more.
Yeah.
But they were just where they were at in 2010 was they liked that. They liked that sound. They liked that scene. And now that they have kids maybe, or, you know, they're just into they have a whole different group of friends, nothing about the new Hawthorne Heights, for instance. Their new album is incredible. I had the drummer on a couple episodes ago.
I played with JT.
Yeah?
Acoustic show a while back. Yeah, he's a really nice guy.
Great dude. All great guys. And it's such... I forgot to ask him, you know, how do you feel about, like, people not really giving the new stuff the attention that the old stuff got? It's kind of a no-brainer because this scene was huge back then. But man, like, the stuff is so much better than the stuff they were putting out in 2006, 2007. But obviously, you know, it just didn't... Now isn't the time for a band with that name, let alone their evolved sound. So
sure, yeah. It
goes both ways. And so, yeah, like, you're better off just having what you want to represent you now. And that's one of the many, many reasons I was finally like, I just got to get away from Rosedale, because I'm only getting nostalgic fans who don't want to even bother listening to the new stuff, which I'm guilty of with some of my favorite bands too.
Sure, yeah.
And the new fans getting confused. They saw me at a show. They don't even know how to find me because of the name. So
yeah, it's weird. Like, take do you remember the band Hello Goodbye?
Yeah,
they had a really big hit in the 2000s.
I like where we are.
Right, and they came out with a record. I think it was like 2010 or 2011. And it's called Would It Kill You? I think it's called Would It Kill You? But it is so good. It's like one of my favorite records.
I'm a fan of the band. Don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah, see, and it's almost it almost hurts them that they had a big hit a long time ago.
Sure.
You know? I feel like if they had just started, kind of like what you're saying, if they had just started and put that out, I think it'd be legendary. It's a great record.
Yeah.
You know?
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, there's a very watery, sort of beachy sound. I'm obsessed with the Beach Boys.
Okay.
If you didn't know. Like, obsessed. And it kind of reminds me, it's weird. It's like, there's something about the vibe that's very Beach Boys. Okay. But it doesn't sound like the Beach Boys. You know, I guess it does in the sense that it's kind of surfy.
Sure. Yeah, that's coming back huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially around here. The surf sound is... I
feel like it's died down a little bit here.
Yeah, I guess lately.
It was like 4 years ago. Everybody was running around with fucking ripped up jeans and Hawaiian shirts. You know?
Yeah, I still know a few of them. But...
Yeah. That's classic, man. I'm not a humongous fan of Hawaiian shirts, but I don't hate them, you know. If people wear them, they like them. That's cool.
It's funny how trends come and go, though.
Yeah.
And come back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, that's another thing I was going to say about your album is I feel like it's a really good blend of what is coming back of like the 80s pop sound, but also really authentic to the nostalgic sounds of the 80s sounds.
Sure.
You know, so yeah, I feel like it's right up your alley, which makes sense because you made it.
Yeah, no, thank you. The idea, I always say that I'm a character from an 80s movie that takes place in the 50s. Because I really like the 50s style. Well, it's actually more 60s. But that kind of style of writing, very classic structures, and
Sure.
but also, and I think the newer stuff that I'm working on right now too. I know I just put this record out, but I'm always writing. But so the newer stuff that I'm working on too is kind of more 60s, 50s style writing wise, but it's like kind of cloaked in a lot of 80s ambience. You know what I mean? And that's what I feel with this record too. I don't know how to explain it, but there's a feeling that a lot of 80s ambience gives me. And I remember feeling it when I was, ever since I can remember. There's just kind of, maybe it's nostalgia, but there's this nostalgic feeling, but it's also kind of dark and dissonant a bit, very dreamy. And it's just a feeling I've had in certain situations from certain songs,
Sure.
At certain times of my life. And I've been really attracted to that feeling, which I think that's kind of why I make music that kind of
Portrays that feeling.
portrays sort of 80s stuff, is because going after that specific feeling. Because I never actually try to make things sound 80s. I know there is a lot of 80s influence, but I'm never like, all right, I'm gonna make an 80s song, or I'm gonna use this synth because it sounds 80s or anything. It's just
it's just the sounds you're going for, which I mean could possibly be that the 80s was influenced by the imagery that you're influenced by, those 60s looking movies, and your bio on your Spotify says it really well, what you're trying to portray with your sound and image. Sure. I forget what it is, but you kind of just said it.
I don't remember what it is either, but
yeah.
Max Green wrote it. Do you know Max? He's in Inspired in Sleep.
No.
He's a cool guy. He's an awesome guy. Yeah, he wrote it for me.
Sweet.
But I'm glad that it's coming. It's palatable.
Sure. Yeah, like
people get it.
Like I said, you're starting to figure a lot of things out, and the branding, the things that are really important to you, the branding and how you portray your sound and image, have always been one. And like, it's cool to see it come to life. And man, I got to pick your brain on that, because I really only know how to build a light show, produce a show, create the sound that I want to sound like, but I don't have the graphic design skills and even the writing ability to make a bio like that. Or I can't even come up with a name that is like, all right, this is going to be my name, which like your name even just suits it.
Does it?
Yeah, I think so.
It's my real name. People always are like, I'm Jara, and then like, oh, cool, but what's your real name?
Yeah, I thought it was just your artist name.
Yeah, no, it's my full name. Or they think my name's like Jeremiah or something.
Oh, okay.
And sometimes people don't believe me, but
sweet. It's easy to find too, ironically.
Yeah,
I'm surprised.
The algorithms are working a bit in my favor these days, which I'm super excited about, because it's been years of not that at all. like having to give people specific links.
Sure.
Whereas now you can just search Jara up and it'll come up pretty easily on YouTube and Spotify, which is awesome to have a 4-letter word.
Yeah.
Bring it. I'm been super excited and stoked about that. It's been cool,
Yeah, man.
A lot of the decisions in the creative process is just me doing things that I like. I love slasher films. I'm wearing a slasher shirt. I actually haven't seen this film, but I love the shirt.
Me neither.
Yeah. So, when it comes to music videos too, it's like trying to capture that feeling that I told you about. So, yeah, I don't know. Some of it just comes kind of naturally.
Do you have any videos for the new album?
Yes. So I just released a music video for it's the 3rd song. It's called "Figure Me Out."
Oh, okay, I like that one.
Thanks. I just released a video for that a couple weeks ago. But some of even the singles that I released a while ago, I'm gonna go back and do music videos for them now that they're on the record.
Okay.
But that's kind of, I plan to do a visual for every song.
Sweet.
Hopefully. Which YouTube is like another game in itself that I'm trying to figure out. How do you feel about promoting your music videos? Like, what do you do?
I would just put them up, and I don't know if it was from touring or doing the Warped Tour grind that I eventually got 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, which I was surprised. Like I wasn't even really tracking it or following it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, once I started the podcast, I was a little more like, all right, I want to try and hit 100 subscribers by episode 25, setting goals. And I mean, I didn't really have a way of purchasing ads or promoting, doing paid promotion, which I would like to learn how to do.
Mm-hmm.
I had a friend. Yeah, I had a friend help me with my last Rosedale video for Space Mountain.
Mm-hmm.
Just sort of, get it on people's radar if they were into Blink-182, Angels and Airwaves, between the ages of 20 and 45, I think is how we set it up.
Mm-hmm.
So that video ended up getting more views and more comments because of that.
Through advertising?
So. I think so, because it did better than, and I think I set it up for that Taylor Swift spoof song I did.
That was a great song.
Thanks, man.
I love that song.
But that was I think I wasted a lot of money not doing it right. If I can remember, there was something where I was like, what? I spent $500? Where? And but then it ended up doing okay. It got to 30,000 views fairly quickly in comparison to my other stuff.
The Space Mountain video?
Taylor Swift video.
Oh, the Taylor Swift video.
I don't know what Space Mountain's at. It's probably like 7,000 or 8,000.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm not good at that stuff. I think it was also the European tour, and people were surprisingly, when I went over there, they were calling for that song in Germany and Austria.
That's awesome, man.
So I was like, I guess it's from YouTube, or
Mm-hmm.
the fact that they saw this band on the bill and they went and found this video, and maybe it was the first thing to come up because I was paying for advertising, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe it just had the most viral potential because it had the most views, so it came up. Or maybe they sift through all of it and that was one that stuck. But yeah, it's more things I got to get better at, man. I can't until I have this new brand, but
and you're still trying to come up with the name, you said?
yeah.
Wow. Good luck with that.
I know. I have so many ideas that I'm just like, meh, I don't know. I don't know if I want to be that forever.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. It's just
Yeah, but I think one of the things that's fucked a lot of artists is the algorithm motivated
just content
it's like
creation.
because when I first started doing YouTube, or just, posting music videos, I had a certain number of subscribers, and they would see it in their feed. They would get notified that a video came out.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's more about the bell. They click the bell, which I don't even think that really does it as well, is making content that either really upsets someone or gets, some sort of rise out of them.
Yeah, viral potential. That's what I mean. Is if it has any of those attributes, whether it's on Instagram, if it's an ass photo, then it's probably gonna help the algorithm out. Or if it's on YouTube, if it's political, then it's gonna help the algorithm out, because they know, okay, this has viral potential based on the content that it is.
Yeah. Have you seen? What's that film? It's on Netflix. It's called The Social Problem or something. It's about social media and how, because of these algorithms really just giving you things that it knows you're going to get some sort of rise out of, it's polarized our country and the whole world, really. Because, for example, everybody on the right gets things that is either going to be a confirmation bias completely and will make them really happy, or the worst parts of the left that's going to uproar, and vice versa,
Yeah.
And
there's a podcast about that too that's really interesting. But yeah, I don't know. I keep my head out of that garbage because it's
I try to as well.
It's well, first of all, it's fake. All of it, whether it's left or right, it's all just opinions and things to make people, get. It's kind of like teams, and I've always been more of an individualist when it comes to anything, whether it's bands I like or, sports teams, or like I'll like multiple sports teams, and people are like, how are you wearing that Tampa Bay shirt right now? I thought you're a Leafs fan. I'm like, I like both. As an individual, I like multiple players on both teams. So on several teams, I'm a fan of hockey like that. But one thing that I'm not a fan of at all is politics. So I don't pay attention to it at all. I don't like any single politician. Like, none of them get me stoked off anything they do or say. They could say the greatest thing in the world, and I'll be like, yeah, but are you inspiring me in any way?
Yeah, sure. I cannot stand and I might get hate for this, but I cannot stand the tribalism and if you are on the right, you're a piece of shit, or if you're on the left, you're a piece of shit.
Yeah.
It drives me crazy, man.
The sad thing is, like, in the arts, especially in music, you can get hate for just saying something. Yeah. You can't say anything. So that's the one thing that, like, I'm willing to talk about is, like, don't just hate someone for their political views. If anything, just be accepting of who they are as an individual and realize the good things that you can get out of them. As selfish as that seems and as using as that seems.
Well, no, I know what you mean, yeah.
Like that is kind of how I've always been all my life, is like, for a while there, the only thing that I wanted from anybody was for them to give my music a shot, come to a show. It goes back to that. I'm like, just like, if you only gave my show a chance, like, I'd be really pushy to get people out to shows. And sometimes people would get offended or annoyed by it, of course. But the ones who were finally like, all right, fine, I'll get 6 hours sleep tonight and come out to your damn show, were always like, I'm so glad I came to that show, and like talking to me pretty steady for the next few weeks because they were like,
on it.
They were inspired or whatever. So it's like, I wish that sort of viral potential, back to that, existed in the online community or social media where like I don't know how it would, but like if only my personal messaging could be exposed to the algorithm based on what the interaction was if the people actually came to the show. There's no way to make that happen.
Yeah. I think the music is so oversaturated right now, I feel
For
like.
sure.
And I kind of wish, you might have to cut this out, but I kind of wish that people who weren't 100% about it kind of just like, just got off the game, because it's like,
own it. I would say that.
Like me and you were like 100%, we're in it, we're about it. That's all that,
Yes. I mean, sometimes I wish I was more. I go through phases.
Sure. Yeah.
But I know what you mean, where it's like,
if you're not about it, just like, can you find something else? Because you're kind of getting in the way of everybody else that's really about it, trying to get, because it's hard to get people to listen to your music. They get that all day, every day,
Right.
And, but also, if you love it to any capacity, I'm not against anybody trying it.
Yeah.
As long as you love it.
Hey,
That's
you know
what?
what?
I feel.
This is the way I feel when I get sent, hey, check out my first music video ever from some fans sometimes. Man, I was that kid, 15 years old, going on the message boards, being like, hey, we're playing a show. Everybody come out, check out my band. Going to school, check out my band, check out my band, check out my band. And looking back, I'm like, oh my God, I wish I didn't do that because of how bad I was then,
Oh, I see.
So even if it is like, man, this person didn't spend no more than 10 hours on this video and song, how dare they even be, in this industry?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was that kid, so I know, oh man, like I wish I wasn't that kid ever, because I'm looking at how annoying it is, but also, all right, I'm going to have some grace with this person and at least feed them a compliment, because maybe it'll get them 10 years from now to the point of making music their full-time thing.
Well, I would argue you weren't that kid because you loved it. If you didn't love it, you wouldn't still be here.
Right. So, yeah, no, there is people who flake off. And some of my bandmates were those guys too, where they were like, check out our band, check out our show. And then a year later, they were no longer promoting or caring. And then a year later, they were like, I'm done with this band. So, yeah, to your point, I wish they would go away sooner than later.
Right.
But you never know. Like, sometimes, it is oversaturated. So I wish they... the ones who aren't fully in it now would just go find an office job or become
something else, whatever.
Yeah, but
my thing. Okay, and I want to reiterate, and let me just say this, is I'm not saying that if you're not good or if you're just starting, get out of here.
Right.
How dare anyone be in this industry? I'm saying if you don't love it, then you should, be, what? Or if you're doing it just to get, fame or something. Because I see that a lot of people like, I want to be famous. What can I do?
Or now that I'm a famous TikToker, it's time to make an album.
Yeah. I would say just be a social media influencer. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
Don't harm the music industry because,
I hear what you're saying. I'm just saying every art, too, is kind of oversaturated with filmmakers.
Absolutely.
And so I think also we're just seeing how many artists there are more than ever, too. Because I think a lot of artists didn't feel enticed to get to the point to release music back when it was hard to release music. They didn't have the courage to go play a show or the means to go play a show because it was harder to do back then. So I think a lot of it comes down to it's easier to release music and it's easier to book a show and go play a show.
Mm-hmm.
So you will see a lot of hacks getting opportunities that, maybe guys like us who are becoming relics deserve more so, or
What's a relic?
been around for a while, been
Oh.
at it for a while.
Oh, okay.
Where like not necessarily washed up, not a has been, but maybe a never has been yet, but could have been, in the earlier days when it was more feasible. But it's tough because that's always going to be the case, and it's always going to be easier to release with technology, music, and everyone's going to do it. The annoying thing is those people, back to what we were talking about at the beginning, where you have to have a different approach to releasing content. Those people have all the ability and time to be influencers and hone that craft and hone that skill of knowing how to hashtag or whatever, whatever I don't know how to do.
Sure. I don't feel like a relic. That word.
Well, I'm just saying because we were talking about how we've known each other for 7 years and we've been playing shows and we've loved the music for 7 years in comparison to someone who started making their first song a year ago but has way more listens. It's like, hey, we've been around the scenes and I've traveled a lot. Like, it's crazy that my music hasn't gotten even the chance that a lot of the other artists that don't even necessarily love music, they're just making an album because it's time to make an album now. Their manager said, maybe, even though they're not even a musician.
Right.
Like that's I think your point in that. Like,
yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Music's already so saturated. Like, don't come in our industry and just treat it like a quick cash grab when we've been trying to get our following built since MySpace days.
Sure, yeah. Part of me feels like, wow, I've been at it for a while, but then another part of me feels like I'm just getting started.
Same. Yeah.
And I'm at a place now where, I have more fans and more streams and followers than I ever had, which is awesome. But it's definitely something that takes time, that.
And you've done it so organically too.
I've tried to, yeah.
I mean, you've played the local circuits, you've played the bars, you've played the clubs, you've released music steadily under this.
I've flyered. Have you done that? Like the flyering? I used to do that all the time.
Too many times.
One time I went to a Blink-182 show to flyer this specific time, and I had the cards in my hand like this, and I was handing them out.
Yeah.
One guy comes out, and I go, "Hey, check out my music." Hand him the flyer. He looks at just the deck of cards.
Yeah.
And he just like goes. He
knocks it over.
He like hits it down like pretty hard. He like kind of hit it down, and it was supposed to fall out of my hand, but he looked so stupid because I just kind of like did that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
damn.
Yeah, it's weird. At this level, there's times where it feels sort of glamorous, if you will.
Sure.
When you're playing to a packed room and your fans come out and we're being noticed on the street or whatever. And I'm not saying I'm Justin Bieber or anything like that. I'm just saying at this level, there is some of that.
Sure.
But then there's also humbling experiences.
Very.
All the time as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, yeah, it's just funny.
But even the real artists at the top, comedians, musicians, it's nice to hear their stories where they've been through that same grind and they've had their flyers pile up in the trash can. And, that's always rewarding for me to hear that, like, oh yeah, they went through that same hustle. Like, I'm glad that I experienced that humbling feeling, because now I can relate to this guy.
Totally. And it's more rewarding too.
For sure.
When good things happen,
Oh, dude, like, even just playing that House of Blues show, like, I had to, like, hold back tears a couple times, because it was like all those empty shows, all those, especially trying to book in San Diego, unreplied emails, and agents in New York trying to scam me into paying to play their San Diego show that didn't even have any locals, and Michael Shannon coming in to save the day.
Yeah.
Like, all of the memories just come flooding back when you like you said, the lights go out and it's time to be your brand. So I guess that's kind of what my brand has become, is like all the hardships and adversity you face coming up are just more fuel for the fire to make your shot really count, and don't let anything or anyone get in the way when you get that moment. Because I've been given those moments, and looking back, I was nowhere near prepared as I would have liked to have been. Like, when we were talking about 2012 Warped Tour, man, I wish I knew what I know now when I was given those opportunities to go build an actual following of my perfect demographic,
Sure. All right, go.
Sorry, I was gonna say, like, that's kind of what I meant too. Is I constantly look back at like, well, I was that kid who really had no clue and didn't even know what I was getting myself into. Like, chances are in 2011, if I knew what 2015, 16, 17 were gonna look like, if I knew what that tour in Europe was even gonna look like, I probably wouldn't have gone. Mm-hmm. If I knew that it was gonna take me till 31 to play in front of an audience that looked like that at San Diego House of Blues, I probably would have thrown in the towel and said, that's not even worth it at 31. Mm-hmm. But, once you're in that situation, you're like, oh man, like.
I was watching a Frank Zappa interview the other day, and the interviewer asked, what advice would you give to musicians that are going after it, And he said, number one, don't quit. Don't ever quit. And number two, keep going. And I thought that was good advice.
Yeah, and that comes with every day too. I mean, there's days where I quit the day. Mm-hmm. Plenty of times.
Yeah.
And maybe the artists who have made it and like really reach legendary success, maybe they just quit the day less,
Sure, yeah.
Maybe there's just more of a early rise to them, a 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. What do you do in those hours more consistently than anybody else? For anybody great, an athlete. So I try and ask myself that every morning until I maybe eat a heavy meal, and then I'm like, screw it, I'll do it later.
Yeah. I feel like just with any tasks, really, like if I'm running 5 miles or something, I don't want to know how far left I have. I'm just in the moment. I'm just doing what I can right now.
Key, yeah.
You know what I mean? And 'cause like you were saying, if you would have known how long, you probably would have been like, fuck that. But I think just being in the moment, getting through the next 3 months, while simultaneously you want to plan, things and have goals, but
just enjoy the climb.
Yeah.
Like Miley Cyrus says.
Yes, exactly. I was going to say something and I forgot.
Sorry.
No, it wasn't your fault. I have really bad short-term memory. I think that's what it is. I always forget what I'm about to say.
I have bad short-term and long-term now.
Really?
Yeah, I forget what I did last week. I forget people that are always like, you remember we played that show at the thing and with this band and that band? I'm like, no, you're thinking of this band and that band, and that could have been the other show. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, I feel you.
Too many things to remember.
There's just too many things.
Yeah.
Just things. There's just too many of them.
Maybe
you know?
It's the fact that like our phone does most of the work for us now anyway. It tells us how to get places. And, you know, we can backtrack and see what the address was in our text. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's making us dumber. Maybe our smartphone is doing all the work.
Probably, man. I remember what I was gonna say, and it was. Do you feel like? Because I feel this way. With the climb, and with playing so many shows in the past where nobody came, or those humbling experiences. When I perform now, I just feel like I just don't give a fuck.
I definitely blank it out. I mean, there'll be some shows I can probably think in like 2017, 2018, where it was like another time I'm going through Ohio, and I'm like really hoping that it's as good as the last time, because last time was good. And I'd sold a lot of merch. So these people have to be coming back, and I've given it some time. They got to be hungry. So they'll put me at, last. And there was people, but now there was some people. It wasn't a great night, but now they're leaving after their friend's band, and I'm playing to like 2 fans. Where I'm like, I just saw this place had people, and now that bugs me.
Yeah.
Especially if I know, like, I drove out, I had expectations. That's, the big reason why you ever feel shitty. So I had expectations to be playing to more people and be, having a good night and selling some of this merch that I'm trying to get rid of. Because it's a business, and that's what touring comes down to a lot of the time is, like, I want to make this goal happen by the time I get home. And sometimes you have unexpected good nights too, and then you might be playing to 10 people when you thought you were going to be playing to 2, and it's like 10 people feels like 100. So it goes both ways. So I'll still sometimes feel that way, but definitely like playing with when I was playing bass with Mainsail at all of these shows across California, I cared a lot less, because it was like, we're all out here for the first time. Who cares? Let's just have some fun and play these, sometimes empty shows. And then surprisingly, some of them had a lot of people.
Sure. And when I say don't give a fuck, I don't mean like don't care about it. Just when you are performing, you're just like, this is it. I don't care what you think, really.
I mean, yeah, if anything, that's the most fun part of being in a band, I always say, is, playing or being the artist. Once it comes time to be the artist, 99% of the time, I'm like, who cares? You're getting practice. You're having fun. These people are enjoying it. But there has been that show where I'm running on 2 hours sleep, and, I just feel like doing anything but.
Sure. Were you able to, I don't know if you mind me asking this, were you able to, with doing it DIY, touring those years by yourself, were you able to like break even?
Oh yeah. That's what I meant by figuring it out. After that Warped Tour grind, I was like, wait, there's a way to make money even though I'm only getting 5,000 streams or whatever. Playing to local circuits, local bands, small towns.
Dude, and then touring, man, the venues and the people treat you so much better.
They can. Yeah.
That's just been my experience. It's like
Right. They definitely can. The people are, especially in the small towns, they're like, thank you for coming to our town. Like, we're so stoked. We want to make sure you come back. Let me buy all of your merch. Yeah. But then the big cities, they're like, you really think you got what it takes, huh? They kind of get that vibe from the venue and everything.
LA.
But like, I've also once I've figured out, not only how to book and how to get at least a bit of a crowd there, even when I've played some of the empty shows to the big venues who are expecting a lot of people, they're like, we want to get you opening for some of the bigger bands that come here because we love your show. Not to toot my own horn, but when I get that reaction, it's I saw a George Carlin interview that was like, don't worry so much about how many people you're performing to, worry about the reaction you're getting. So if it's a small, if it's just the venue that you're getting a reaction from, and they, who see 300 shows a year, are saying, we got to have you back after you brought them $0, like,
that's awesome, man.
That's a spark. You got to keep going on that.
I have this guy who worked at Soma. He was the flashlight guy, you know, and he would help with the tear down and bringing in
Last song.
Yeah,
the last song guy.
Yeah. Oh wait, no. I mean, the guy who, what would you even call it? He's like a stagehand.
Okay.
He the stage manager is what he is.
Yeah.
Growing up, I always playing there since I was like 14. I always wanted to impress that guy because I knew if he liked it, that's his job. He works there, you know.
You're doing something
then
right.
You're doing something right. And a few years later, he likes my music now, which is, I told him, like, dude, that's been my goal.
You set a goal, you worked at it,
yeah,
and you made it happen.
And he likes it, so we're getting there, man. We're getting there. But
we're about good to wrap it up here. A few minutes, unless you got anything else you want to say? Any plugs you want to do? Jara the Singer on Instagram?
Jara the Sinner.
Oh, I thought it was Singer.
No.
Wow.
Singer. Yeah.
I guess, my phone, like I said, my phone does the work for me. I type Jara the Sit.
It's
does the
Mandela
rest.
effect. You know about the Mandela effect?
No.
It's this theory that there is some sort of change in the dimension that we're in, and people remember things that didn't exist.
Right.
For example, Chick-fil-A, everybody thinks it's CHIC, but
Right.
it's CHICK. Or the Monopoly guy doesn't have a monocle, but we all remember that he does. But I'm also lying because it used to be Jara the Singer.
Okay.
But I'll tell you, this is what happened. When I first started, promoters, because I have, 2 Facebook pages. One is my artist page, one is my personal. And promoters would always put my full name because they would link me to my personal.
Like the one with your last name? What is your last name?
I don't have a last name, dude.
Really?
Really. I was born without one.
You are literally an artist name.
Yeah. No. But yeah, so it would have my last name, and it would always be on flyers and things. So I was like, oh my God. So I put my name, because you can't not have a last name on a personal Facebook. So I put my name 3 times, and then promoters would put that on things. And I was like, oh my God.
Oh yeah, I have seen that.
So I just made my handle Jara. First it was Jara likes to sing, but it looked like it said Jara likes tossing, which is like a British way of saying masturbate, I think. So I changed it to just Jara the Singer. And again, people started thinking that my artist name was Jara the Singer because that's my handle on Instagram and Twitter, and that's my name on Facebook. So I just thought it sounded a little American Idol contestant-esque. And I don't really consider myself I sing, and, I'm working at it every day. But
You're a good singer. I'll stop you right there. That bottle of Vocalese to your left, that's yours to take home.
Oh,
courtesy
yay.
of the folks at Vocalese.
Nice.
Yeah,
Thank
you know about that
I
stuff.
love this stuff. Yeah, you gave it to me one time. But
you're a good singer.
thank you.
But with your new bio, Jara the Sinner.
Well,
Makes
yeah.
sense.
So yeah, I have a leather jacket that I customized, and it says Sinner on the back of it. And someone on Instagram said, "Oh, haha, Jara the Sinner," instead of the singer. And I was like, wait, I kind of like that, you know? So,
Nice.
so I gave it something that at least if someone confuses it, it's at least something kind of cool.
So that's what
that
it is on
that I
Facebook
like.
now, Jara the Sinner.
Yeah, on my personal page.
Okay.
Not on my artist page.
That's just Jara.
It's just Jara. My artist name is just Jara, but if people are going to get confused, I'd rather them think it's Jara the Sinner instead of Jara the Singer, because I think that's kind of lame.
American Idol-y.
Yeah.
I didn't think of that, but sure, makes sense.
I'm glad you didn't think of that. That's what I always thought of, you know, but.
Well, right on, man.
That's
Thanks
that.
for coming up all the way from National City to Oceanside to be on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, dude.
It's been fun.
Everybody check out Jara's album. Is it the album Sing Me to Sleep? Is that the title of it too?
Yeah.
Sing Me to Sleep. It's incredible. Just came out a couple weeks ago, last week.
Yeah, last Friday.
Cool. Well, I'm hoping to have this up this Sunday, if not this week at some point.
Sweet.
And
It's on all platforms now.
Awesome. So follow Jara and listen to his album front to back. Leave a comment. What's your favorite song? I don't know. That's what we're supposed to do now, right? Leave comments.
Something like that. For algorithms. For viral potential.
Help out that algorithm. My least favorite word, algorithm.
Me too. Don't you have a song that says that or something?
I made like a 1-minute thing about how algorithm is my least favorite. It was just a random
That's hilarious. Me too.
blabber song.
Me too. I hate that word.
All right, that's all. Thanks again, dude.
Thank you, man.
Yes, we really did it. Episode 28 in the books. Thank you so much for checking out this podcast. Thank you, Vocalese, for supporting our voices and hooking Jara up with a Vocalese bottle. If you haven't tried this stuff yet, now's your chance. Get 15% off your order by using this link beside my head. I'll leave it in the description as well. Vocalese is an all-natural throat spray. They also make a bunch of other all-natural products to soothe your throat. Big thanks again to Jara for coming up and being on the show. Please go check out his new album, Sing Me to Sleep. Check out all his videos on YouTube. I'll leave them in the description. Follow him on Instagram at Jara the Sinner. See what he's up to. See what he's got going on in the future. And yeah, thanks again for checking out this episode of State of My Art Podcast. If you like this episode, you might like the other ones, so be sure to subscribe, click the notify bell, follow wherever you're listening to this or watching this, and leave a comment if you so please. I'd really appreciate that. Thanks again, and I'll see you next week for another episode of State of My Art Podcast.